Hello, everybody. So awesome to be here with our new speaker, Daryl. Daryl, I know Daryl from gosh, a couple of years already, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit about him. He is he's a poet. He's a sage and international communication coach who has spent the last several years surrendering to the concept of surrendering. As an author and coach, he takes the individual on a journey that recollects language that has been hijacked through unconscious emotional charges and sometimes conscious misdirection. Daryl supports people to reframe the stories that stop them from achieving the vision for their own lives. His practice is grounded in the pursuit of curiosity. Through evoking questions, he practices, teaches, and models listening, listening deeply, and speaking clearly. He is committed to creating and holding a space for clients to break all paradigms and claim ownership of our sovereign self within the community we surround ourselves with. Daryl's vision is for each of us to remember and evoke who we can here who we came here to be.
Yes.
Wow, Derek, and I have to tell you something. I just read your bio. I had not read it before, and it sounds like poetry to me. Isn't that amazing who Daryl is? That was a good bio, Daryl. Welcome, welcome, welcome to be here with us.
Well, thank you. And that's kind of my fault because I just got that to you like right before our interview. So you can go back and read it when there's a little less pressure and really sit with it. So thank
But it's
you.
beautiful. Is I really again, it was like a poet, like a poet. Yeah, talking about himself, and I think I really enjoy it. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So, we will begin because, as I said before, what I'm doing in these interviews, uh, is asking for simple questions. Four simple questions are gonna take us to the journey of the speaker, to transformation, and at the end, hopefully, Daryl gets to share with us how he allows himself or becomes willing every day to transform a little bit more. So, are you ready for those
Yeah,
questions, Daryl?
absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, so the first question there is, what do you do?
Um, so at the fundamental basis, I tell people I'm an intentional communication coach. That's really fancy speak for just saying I pay attention to what I say and I pay attention to what other people say. And then I do my best to guide others to do that.
Hmm.
So I'm an intentional communication coach. How are we saying things? How are we listening to each other?
Beautiful. That's powerful. I know that it's just words, but it really intrigues me. Is like, you are saying, oh, it's simple like this, and then I am curious about a lot of what you're saying. So, but let's go and jump into the second question, and probably I will have
Okay.
more of what I want to know about it in the second answer. The second question is, what made you interested in what you do currently? And tell me about how you got there.
Okay. So one of the things that really got me interested, as long as I could remember, I wrote. I remember early on, my English teachers would tell me, you're really good at this. I didn't have to study, and it really frustrated people. I couldn't tell you how to structure language, but I loved it, and I was really attracted to it. So very early on, I would start sharing pieces of me through poetry. And at first, I used to do this really sneaky thing where I would write something, I'd put quotes on it, but I wouldn't tell them who it was because it was mine. And people would assume it was a quote from somewhere else. And then when I got more comfortable, then I'd start putting my name on it. And as I grew and started leaning into my own coaching space, it became important for me to one, find my voice, but then give permission for other people to find their voice. Uh,
Mhm.
so that's really what got me here is intentional communication is I used to use words in my past life to bullshit people, to control
Mm,
situations, to manipulate situations to keep myself safe. And as soon as I grew into my own transformation and started exploring language, I knew that I could start using language for transparency, to share myself, to evoke feelings in others. And then I wanted to do it with intention. I wanted to say, I'm going to take a stand for this. And that's kind of how I got down this path, is slowly just giving myself permission to use language and listen to language in a way that works for those of us that are around us.
mm,
So
mm. Beautiful. So I wrote down, because I wrote down intentional communication. That was spoke, it was like huge to me, intentional communication. And then you explain it to me. And I heard three things. And I'm just gonna mention it because that's what I heard, but I want you to, if you want to elaborate a little bit more on it. Um, the first one that you spoke with to was transparency. Intentional communication is that this is what I hear. It's to be honest, to be transparent. Second is to evoke feelings. I can evoke something. I can actually evoke with what I say. And then the third one is I can be 100% intentional.
mm,
However, when you talk to me about that intentional way of probably being for me when I'm communicating, also it speaks to me about my own responsibility because I am responsible from what I am evoking
yeah.
somehow. Yeah.
So I boil it down in my coaching to a really simple principle, and I actually give this away in one of my free workshops.
Mm-hmm.
I really think at the fundamental level, every human being wants the same thing, same three things. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be cherished. Right?
Mm,
Now, what we sometimes argue about is what does seeing each other look like? What does hearing each other sound like? And what does cherish mean? Especially men. When I say the word
mm-hmm.
cherish with intention
Mm-hmm.
for men, they're like, you know, men know that women love to be cherished. They know their kids love to be cherished. But for a man to say, I actually desire to be cherished is a big deal. So
Mm,
when I flip that coin over, I tell them to be seen, I get to show up. To be heard, I get to speak up. And to be
mm,
cherished, I get to share myself.
mm,
Because in order for somebody to cherish anything about me, I get to be worthy of that by sharing myself.
mm,
And then they meet me there, right? Um, if I again want to be seen, I get to tell Carla, this is what being seen feels like for Daryl, because we're in a relationship. Here's how I know you see me. Here's how I know you hear me. And in this exchange of intimacy, you share similar views for yourself. Well, Daryl, this is what it feels like for me to be seen. This is how I know I'm being heard. And
mm-hmm.
in that sharing, we start to cherish the time we get to spend together. Right. And it takes that intentional communication. Say the uncomfortable thing out loud for us to get ourselves there, both for ourselves and in relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And in a world that's so curated, I don't think we do that, right? I don't go on Instagram and tell people what it feels like to be seen. I just show up, and then I hope the algorithm works for me, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is what we get to do more and more often in relationship, and especially in community.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um, so I'm gonna move on to the third question, and um, it is about what has been for you your biggest or most profound shift or transformation, and how it has affected your life.
All right, so I was introduced to the concept of the semantic grift 4 years ago or so. Um, and for me, it came from a book, I believe it's called Semantic Drift, where words kind of drifted away from their intended meaning, right?
Mm,
I think that's only half of the truth. I think sometimes the words have been grifted, either by advertisers or political parties or men towards women, women towards men. Like we start saying a word in a certain way. I'll give you an example, the word weave, right?
Mm,
Up until last summer, it wasn't, people use weave for baskets and for spider webs, right? And then it became a politically charged word because how it was
mm,
being used and grifted. We wanted it to have a different meaning. And some people are like, oh, it doesn't get to mean that. And other people were like, well, why can't it mean that? Right. And the conversation, I believe, isn't whether one is right or wrong. It's, are we willing to have the conversation in the middle of what it means to
mm,
us? Can I hold what's true for me and give you space to hold what's true for you? So I
yes.
think for me, that was one of my big ahas because I held language so dear most of my life, having written for so long, that I didn't want to dismantle it. I didn't want to convince myself that people were stealing words or using words to manipulate or do all the things. I'm a writer. I know that's what I do. I manipulate emotions. I
Mhm,
get people to feel something they haven't felt for a while or haven't given themselves permission to feel for a while. So I know it to be true for me, right? And and going there, I think was my big aha. That
mm,
really keeps me grounded.
mm. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I have experienced is through my own shift or transformation through the years, words have changed meaning. They started having one meaning at the beginning, and then they ended having a totally different meaning at the end. And it has been powerful and beautiful because somehow I got to see the evolution of the word, but in reality it is also my own evolution of where I was before relating to that word, and then where I am now. Because before I had feelings attached to it and beliefs attached to it, and of course meaning, beliefs, ideas, connections. And now I have other beliefs, other connections attached
Well,
to
and
it.
I would imagine that's even more so true for you because you're multilingual, right? So
Yeah.
in order to learn English, you had to learn what words mean to use them properly. Just like me learning Spanish, I would learn
Mhm.
words so that I'm using them properly, right? And to understand that that's shifted, and we watch it, especially when we're multilingual, we're like, wait a minute, that doesn't mean that in our language.
Yeah.
Why does it mean it in English, but it doesn't mean it in Spanish?
Yes.
Or how come there's not a word for that in Spanish? Right?
Yeah, it's so amazing that you're saying that because it also has different emotional connotations.
Mhm.
Like, it could be the same word, but then it means something different because of my experience.
Yeah.
With that word in Spanish, it may be different than in
Mhm.
English. And it's just very interesting because it will bring a totally different baggage
Mhm.
if I say it in English or in Spanish. I mean, even when we talk about, how my husband always gets upset because I like to fight in English. I don't know why, but every time that I get upset about something, I start talking in English, and he's like,
All right,
"What? Stop!"
but for context, does he speak both Spanish and English,
Yes,
or
yes, he
okay.
does,
So
but
you're
then
not
he
leaving
doesn't
him out of
like
the
it. He's
conversation?
like, "No, don't
Okay.
speak to me in English. I want to speak Spanish." And it's just funny because I don't know. I just go into English, and it's just so interesting because again, I don't even know where it comes from, but it just happens.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Well, I want to give an example where we're talking about it. And this is a place that I take anybody that's new to this concept of exploring language, especially how we use it. I give them an easy and example of it. The word kind and the word nice.
Mm,
If you actually go look up the word nice, the etymology of it is to be naive or unaware, right?
mm,
So when you tell somebody to be nice, you're literally telling them to be unaware. Be nice to me. Be unaware of all my faults, right?
got it.
Be
Oh,
naive to who I am and be nice to me, right?
oh,
You're inviting them to put something aside and be nice to you. or
Mhm.
inviting yourself to put something aside, right?
Mhm.
Ignore this thing, be unaware of this thing, and just be nice to him, be nice to her, right?
Mhm.
And how true is that, right? So I tell people, go be kind, don't be nice, right? For me, the word kind means to be kindred, to be like family, right? Treat them as if they're family, as if we're connected, kindred, right?
Mhm.
I tell people, go be kind, but don't go be nice. I don't want anybody to go be ignorant or unaware.
Mhm.
And those are everyday words.
Yes. Yes. And we could exchange them, right? Thinking that is the same thing.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for that. I didn't know that difference. You see, I learned something new today. Thank you
Well,
for that.
that's what we're here for.
So we're gonna move to question number 4. What is your golden nugget to help you to move on or shift or transform? And how do you do it? And what it does require from you when you use it?
All right. So the one that I've been using for the last couple of years, and I probably use it, I would say close to every day, is the phrase claiming my sovereignty within community.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And that word sovereign is in my bio with intention. Um, so when I'm struggling, whether I'm in community with my partner Shelly, whether I'm in community with me and Shelly and our housemate, our families, the larger community that I'm in all the spaces, I still get to claim my sovereign space in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the minute that I take away any space for you to claim your sovereignty, I'm no
Mm-hmm.
longer sovereign, right? And I get to navigate that. It's fine tuning to go, how can I be sovereign and be in community? And I'm watching this happen, especially in the political spectrum, where half of us are arguing for sovereignty and the other half of us are arguing for community. Those people, if they just wanted to be part of the community, things would be so much better. And those people, if they just didn't take my sovereignty, would be so much better. And I'm asking, why can't we have both? Why
Mm-hmm.
is this going to be a binary decision to make when it has choices, when it can create space for us to figure it out? But it takes us being willing to be intimate, talk to each other, have
Mm-hmm.
relationship. And I start with me.
Mm-hmm.
So almost every day I find myself in some sort of push-pull. And I ask myself, how can I claim my sovereign space right now and stay in community with this person or these people? And then I move from there. And
Beautiful.
for me, that scale, that fine tuning. So in transformation and leadership, we have the concept of 4 levels of responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the higher you go up on that, the more you step into that. I am responsible for everything that happens in my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I add to it the 4 levels of authority. And for me, as I move up that scale, it's how can I claim my authority without taking your authority?
Mm-hmm.
And on a scale, it's called a fulcrum. It's that middle point where the scales balance. And for me, that fulcrum is my authenticity. I'm the only one that knows where I am on that scale of responsibility, where I am on that scale of authority. Because if I give up too much of my authority, I'm not being responsible anywhere anyway. I'm giving my authority to somebody outside of me to choose that, right? But if I give up too much of what I'm responsible for, right, then I become over authoritarian for the people around me. It's got to be my way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that delicate balance is my authenticity, is showing up authentically me in all the spaces so that you don't get a version of me and then Shelly gets a version of me, Eddie gets a version of me, but you guys all get together and take notes. You're like, well, he's kind of the same person in all the spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me was the what I come back to every day, how I use it, and
Mm-hmm.
why it's so important to me, because it all comes back to me,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. It reminds me of one of my biggest transformation has been love, right? And I was a giving person. My love became Like it was about giving to others, giving to others. And what I realized is I was giving from an empty place. And just as you're saying, right? Like it's speaking to me in that sense, because it was only when I was able to love me as a complete whole being first that I was able to love others the same way. Not the other way around, because I was always loving from, I will use this word, from an unhealthy place, because it was kind of giving from an empty place rather than from a full one. And when I was able to give from that fullness of me, God, things got a lot better.
Yeah, I would imagine that so. And just like me, I have a very similar story.
Yeah.
So I hear you.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing that, Daryl, and for being here with us and being willing and vulnerable and talking to us about your own transformation. Now, I want to know where the viewers can find you.
So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. Website's probably the easiest thing because you can get to all of those links.
Okay.
Um, it's bonfireriver.com.
Okay.
We're launching a new community space that will be live in January. We're in all the pre-work for that. It's called Tanta Mas.
Wow.
Um, so that'll be a community on Circle, the platform. It'll have a YouTube channel associated with it and some other things. So that's probably the easiest thing to stay caught up with all the things is just go to the website, bonfireriver.com.
Beautiful. And then I know that you said that you were gonna send us some link to people to connect with you if they are
Absolutely.
interested, and we placed it in the bio in the
Yeah,
information that we have with the videos. Thank
yeah,
you, Daryl, for being with us.
absolutely. And here's what I would love to do for anybody that's watching this that's interested in connecting. Um, I would love to do three no charge 33-minute coaching sessions.
Wow,
So I'll give you a link for that to include in the bio.
beautiful.
And I let them arm wrestle for it. I draw straws for it. I don't care. But I'll do three of them for anybody in your community that is interested in connecting. Um,
Awesome.
and make an appointment. And we'll, if you want to hear more about some of these concepts I've talked about, happy to. If you just want to come in and go, do you have 30 minutes to just hold the bucket or talk about something different? Happy to. Happy to. But I'd
Beautiful.
love to give that, especially between the holidays.
Thank you. That is very generous. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Daryl, for being with us. And for everybody watching, tomorrow we'll have another speaker, and just join us. Just remember, it's another way to let go, another way to find a shift within us. And hopefully you come and share with us. Bye. Bye, Daryl.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.